Welcome back to the Making Science podcast. I'm Noelle Runo, Head of International Marketing and Communications at Making Science. We're in 2026 and the average consumer is now anything but average. They're faster, smarter, and more demanding than ever. Joining me are two experts who live in the belly of this beast. Matz Lukmani, Product Lead at Google, and Greg Shickle, Head of Growth UK at Making Science. Welcome both.
Thank you.
Nice to be here.
Greg, you want to start off with a bit of a challenge?
I do. We keep hearing about the death of the marketing funnel. So the question I have is that if that is the case, why is it most marketing budgets are still designed in the shape of a marketing funnel?
That's a good point, Greg, and it didn't. It just got smarter, I would say. In 26, the reality is that consumers don't go shopping. They're always shopping, as we call it. We've moved into this discovery loop. It's like a fluid, continuous cycle of searching, streaming, scrolling, shopping, and beyond. And that's where we are, really.
I think the old funnel, linear funnel, assumes people are waiting to be told what to buy, rather than the loop recognizes that if you aren't there the second a spark of intent forms, you're pretty much invisible.
Yeah.
And that sounds pretty exhaustive for a brand. So maybe Matz, maybe you can tell me a little bit more about how you stay always on without burning out.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're tackling today. The gap between new consumers, reality, and the commercial execution needed to win has increased dramatically. And that's going to just go on in this tangent for a while.
Interesting. So leaning into more Google side then, Matz, you've talked about how AI isn't just a tool, but it's actually changing the psychology of the shopper. Could you dive into this a little bit more?
Yeah, so exactly. We look at it from the lens of mental tax. Think back a few years, buying something like a new camera or a car was high friction point of an exercise. You had to synthesize 20 tabs of information. Hopefully you had a browser that supported multiple tabs, read sometimes fairly conflicting reviews. Hopefully they were talking about stuff that they truly believed in, and then figure out the specs for yourself. This was a cognitive burden on anyone trying to make a purchase decision. Today, our AI models like Gemini are interwoven into our Google products, reaching millions of users. And this helps synthesize information in a more instant fashion so consumers can make decisions sooner.
So essentially, it becomes like information as a service.
Precisely. It removes the mental tax by providing comprehensive, synthesized answers right when the users need them. Example, AI overviews. It's a classic one. Product discovery is now literally seamless, but the shift means consumers' expectations have also skyrocketed. They expect you to be there with the right answers before they've even finished their first sentence.
So where does this discovery actually happen? Is it just search, or are we seeing it in other places?
Yeah, and in today's AI-powered world, the consumer journey is far more fluid, spanning multiple Google surfaces. We often talk about this as an everything screen phenomena, and YouTube is a prime example. YouTube has truly evolved into multi-screen ecosystems, and it's encompassing multiple surfaces. For example, the mobile, which is really designed for on-the-go experiences. Then you have desktops and tablets where you really do deeper engagements and research before you start drawing concrete conclusions. Then you have the living room, the CTV, which is becoming an increasingly important place for brands to get discovered and have immersive content out to the users. And then finally, my favorite is the shots, the vertical canvas for quick, engaging moments, now reaching billions of users worldwide.
So for instance, a viewer might first encounter a brand while viewing content on their 65-inch TV in the living room. Later they might delve deeper, researching on their laptop, and perhaps the final inspiration to act, or the final trigger to act, comes from a compelling YouTube shorts on their phone during a break.
Exactly, Greg. I want to know more about that 65-inch TV you have, but you're spot on. YouTube acts as a powerful discovery engine, working fairly hand in hand with search, which then drives the conversions.
So this must really trigger a trust factor here, right?
Yes, it's the anchor for the whole thing that comes together. According to our research, for example, with Ipsos, 83% of global consumers use Google and YouTube on a daily basis, which is much higher than any other online platform. And more importantly, the data shows that 65% of people turn to Google or YouTube first when they're making a purchase decision. So we are not just in the journey, we're the start of the journey for a majority of people out there. For brands, this means we are here where the super empowered consumers live and start their journeys. And hopefully you're there as well.
So we can see how the AI is removing the friction for the consumer. But the question I have is, does it then create a creative tax for the marketer? So how does a brand show up on 5 screens and 3 different formats with a consistent message without just destroying their creative team?
Yeah, and you don't have unlimited resources as an advertiser or a brand. So I totally acknowledge the creative tax here. But again, to champion and challenge, I would love to put the onus back on the marketer to lean into Gen AI and automation as an enabler. You now have these settings to deliver the right assets across all surfaces, whether they are vertical, horizontal, or square, and deliver it where it matters the most. If you don't have the right assets to fit the right screens, you're basically just putting noise out there for your users. For many advertisers, this starts very simple, like as a feature in Google Ads, like the video enhancements, or in the old days, we used to call this the flip video technology. It allows you to use our latest tech on VO and Nano Banana models to repurpose your current assets to fit the device the user is on. For others, it could be just the start of the journey using something like an asset studio in Google Ads just to get off the ground. But if you're an advertiser, the creative tax is real, and acknowledge that, and automation and Gen AI should be your enablers.
I mean, and that's also why we at Making Science created the ad-machina creative hub. So we realized that to win in the discovery loop, brands needed a specialist creative engine that integrates seamlessly across the Google ecosystem.
Exactly.
So Greg, can you explain a little bit more about how ad-machina actually solves that creative tax for the people who don't really know what ad-machina is?
Yeah, it becomes like an enhancement to the features within Google. So it becomes the brain, the creator, and the orchestrator. So in short, it allows advertisers to generate the volume and variety of assets needed, and in seconds. It's incredibly quick. And then to orchestrate them across the discovery loops, across that messy middle, if you like, and then to optimize the best performing elements in order to win at each stage and ultimately drive more sales, more higher value sales.
It builds a bridge for scaling.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And thanks to this, ad-machina has just been mentioned as, or recognized out of 32 vendors in the Forrester Creative Advertising Technology Landscape Report for Q2 2026, just for this creative side of things. So thank you, Greg, for explaining that. So we've covered quite a lot in this short podcast. So we've covered the fatigue of the funnel, the removal of the mental tax, and the power of the everything screen. So Matz, why don't you leave us a final word for the CMOs?
Exactly, and we covered so much that it's tough to pick the top line. But if I have to pick one, I would say you need to match this new super empowered consumer with an equally empowered media strategy. Use the trust and reach of platforms like Google and YouTube to reach your users, and don't be afraid to lean into automation to handle the complexity. For a lot of advertisers, it could be just something small they can start with and then build towards bigger solutions like the one Greg walked us through.
And Greg, what about you?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think my takeaway is simple, is that to thrive in 2026, you've got to break down the silos between search, video, data, content, and creative. And you need to have that unified creative and intelligence engine like ad-machina to win throughout the discovery loop.
Amazing. Thank you, both of you, for this short masterclass into what the super empowered consumer is and the discovery loop. It's really exciting, and I think most of the listeners who are tuning into this podcast have learnt a lot. So to our listeners, actually, stop building funnels and start closing loops. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you.
Thank you.